Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Leveraging AI and SIEM in the SOC Security Operations Centers webinar hosted by Logpoint and MetCloud. Let's just give another sort of 30 seconds to a minute for everybody to arrive, and we'll kick things off. Well, again, good morning, everyone. My name's Innes Muir. I'm Regional Sales Manager for MSSP business here at Logpoint. Today, we'll be positioning and demonstrating the leveraging of AI and SIEM in the Security Operations Center. So welcome. Okay, I'm joined by my colleagues today, Paul Gower, who is Director of Customer Engagement at Logpoint. Also Ian Vickers, who is the CEO of MetCloud, and also Xavier Schmoor, who's a data scientist at AISOC. Just before we kick things off, just a bit of housekeeping. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat and we can endeavour to answer those at the end, and we will be recording this session. Okay, so today we'll be demonstrating the power of Logpoint SIEM and SOAR, augmented with MetCloud's AISOC technology to deliver effective alert response without the need for budget-hungry analysts and SOC teams, empowering response and remediation against potential threats. So Paul is going to give an overview of Logpoint SIEM and SOAR as a technology and how we deliver and enhance that to both our end users and our managed service provider partners. Ian's going to give an overview of MetCloud and AISOC, and Xavier is going to give you a more sort of technical in-depth overview of AISOC and how that integrates with Logpoint, and then jump into a demo. Okay, without further ado, over to you, Paul, and we can jump into Logpoint.
Okay, thank you, sir. So where we'll start is how Logpoint fits in with managed services in the first place. So there's a few things that you would probably want to think about if you're considering taking a managed service or running your own managed service alongside MetCloud and AISOC. The first is really that we have unified SIEM and NDR offerings, and the idea here is that you can manage multiple clients from a single place, which we'll talk about as we go forward. But there's two different, or actually three different types of management that we have for multi-tenancy. Basically, we have Director currently that some of you may know about. It's a way of managing a SIEM. And if I look at the NDR offering, we have a central offering, which will allow us to manage multiple NDRs from the same place as well. So it's essentially a single place where you can manage different tenants and look at the logs and the reporting based on those tenants. The SIEM also has automated threat detection and response. We have a SOAR capability that allows us to run playbooks that can automatically respond to certain things that you would need to help you streamline your incident management. So, for example, we can do a bit of triage by running a playbook. So I can go off to the internet and gather information on something that I saw. The NDR has the capability of just watching the network the entire time. And if it sees something that's anomalous, it can not only tell you about it, but it will also do packet capture as well. So you can get an idea of actually what's at a very detailed forensic level, what's going on in your network. As I mentioned, the multi-tenancy and the scalability, the architecture really is just there to allow you to manage your multiple customers or tenants in a secure way. But the main point of the platform anyway is to look at, well, pretty much taking your logs from all sorts of places just to get a picture of what's happening in your network, and looking at the compliance and reporting aspect of it as well. So that can help you meet certain industry compliance standards, so GDPR and NIS and things like this. And then really just to understand actually what's going on in your network from a simple point of view. One of the better things about Logpoint is the flexibility of how we can deploy it. So what Ian's going to talk about in a moment is the sovereignty cloud. So the idea of running Logpoint in a hosted environment, but we also have our own, or you can host it yourself as an MSSP if you wish to, but that just goes on your TIN. We have a SaaS offering as well. So if you want Logpoint to run it, you can manage it from a SaaS offering. But as you're going to find out from Ian, it's probably going to be better to take a managed service that can also do the hosting. The NDR, we're just going to either put an appliance into a network, or you can run it as a virtual appliance. But basically, you can collect your logs anywhere. So it can be on-prem, it can be in the cloud, however you want to do it. So just to talk a little bit about the product offering. So as I mentioned, we have SIEM, and as part of SIEM, there's a SOC component as well. The NDR is, as I say, an appliance or a virtual appliance that you can put on-prem or in the cloud. It is in the description on the right, it is described as agentless, and that's absolutely right for the appliances. But actually, there is a way of putting an NDR agent onto a server as well. So if you want to gather extra forensic information, then that's quite useful to be able to do that as well. The SIEM in general, you're going to connect it to things that work well and give you the picture of what happened on your network. So typical examples are firewalls, could be servers, so you can actually see the logs of what happened on each of these servers, or it could be endpoints. And the way we cope with endpoints is we don't have an EDR offering ourselves, but the game is to play nicely with any EDR that you would typically use. So Microsoft, CrowdStrike, Palo, any of those things. You can basically use those endpoints and we can gather those logs to a central place. But you combine them with a firewall and the server logs, and then you'll get a picture of actually what's happening on the network. You'll see in the middle, we talk a little bit about Director and MOM, if you're wondering. It's like a product that we're looking at right now, which will be kind of an evolution of Director, I suppose. It's called Manager of Managers. So it'll be the similar idea, but we'll be able to scale it better and be able to do much faster setup. The co-analyst is going to help you a little bit with how you look at all of the incidents that you get and how you can start piecing that story together. So it's an idea where we can start analyzing things in a decent way. Currently, we have something in the SIEM product, which is called Incident Explorer, and that gives you kind of a graph of connected incidents. So if I have an attack on a server, it's coming from 2 different hosts, then you'll be able to see how those 2 hosts are connected together and any alerts that are coming from all of those hosts. So we give you some basic things, but what Ian's going to talk about in a moment is pretty much how AISOC and MetCloud are going to enhance that basic information that we give, in essence, manage your service properly and be able to give you much more detailed analysis of what happened in your network. So I'll turn it over to you, Ian, and you can continue the story.
Thanks, Paul. Really helpful, and sort of gives me an opportunity to build on what you've just explained to people on the webinar. So MetCloud, we are setting the gold standard for secure, sovereign, and private AI cloud services. As I talk through our presentation, it'll become more evident as to why we chose to partner strategically with Logpoint and AISOC, because of that sovereignty requirement that we have in our go-to-market proposition. So it may not be sort of prevalent to people right now, but there is a huge shift happening in the cloud market space currently at the moment. So according to IDC, global spend on sovereign cloud solutions is projected to reach over 250 billion by 2027. Now this is a significant increase when you look at what that spend looked like in 2022 at 79 billion. So it's a 400% increase in uptake as to what's happening across UK and Europe and other countries who are concerned around data sovereignty, around data privacy. And with the geopolitical tensions that are currently happening, as we see every day on our TVs, with wars going on across the world, that governments are increasingly concerned around data security and keeping it within borders. Now those predictions or forecasts of increasing to 258 billion by 2027. Other forecasting organizations predict that will double further by 2030. So, we are heading into a significant market uptake as organizations. And again, I'll talk a little bit more detail in a couple of more slides further on in the presentation, which type of sectors and which type of organizations are probably mobilizing first and repatriating data out of US hyperscalers such as Microsoft, AWS, and Google. Next slide. Now, what's also happening at the same time, which is increasing focus around sovereignty, is the emergence of AI, and clearly some of the new innovations around generative AI. Everyone's now pretty up to date with what's going on with technologies like ChatGPT and so forth from a generative AI, but there are serious technologies and applications being currently developed harnessing generative AI for healthcare. In one case, defense is another. And so these are really key areas in which the emergence of AI is demanding more of a sovereign or private AI cloud environment because of its nature for protecting and securing intellectual property. Clearly, it is quite evident that companies and organizations operating in highly sensitive environments, again, sectors that sort of comply with these things are financial services, banking, and I touched on healthcare and defense already, but there is an emergence of capability requirements for critical national infrastructure, which again, I'll explain a little bit more in the next few slides. All of these organizations are looking at how can they best adopt artificial intelligence to improve capability, efficiencies, and performance. Next slide, please, Ines. So, what is it that Met Cloud is building, and what are we delivering today? So we have a high propensity for organizations that operate within these 13 critical national infrastructure sectors. So, we have clients operating across most, if not all, of these sectors, particularly of great focus for us at the moment is financial services, banking, insurance. We're having significant uptake in defense and supply chain companies. And where we're seeing all of this kind of pressure putting onto organizations is coming from regulations, compliance, and again, coming back to this geopolitical tension that is developing across the globe, as now countries are now thinking about their budget from a defense perspective, and quite clearly across all of NATO countries, most, if not all, will be increasing their defense spend significantly over the coming 5 years and maybe 10, in which they start moving from a UK perspective. This is going from 2% of GDP spend to 2.5, with an objective to eventually arrive at 3% of GDP. And this is going to be mirrored across the whole of the globe, because clearly there are things happening which is increasing sensitivities and insecurity across countries, and governments are responding to this. So we are seeing a big uptake of services requirements from defense-related organizations. But similarly, we're seeing a comparative uptake of organizations coming to MetCloud who operate within finance, insurance, energy, utilities, and construction. So, you know, there is massive uptake currently on the MetCloud platform, and we're seeing this across other countries as well. Next slide, please. So why did we choose Logpoint, and why did we develop AISOC, which is now a separate company to MetCloud? So we chose Logpoint in the early years because of its European foundation. It was core and key to our choosing of a SIEM vendor. They were probably one of the best products on the market at the time when we chose to partner with Logpoint. But equally and more important was their European status. You know, we were key to find a partner that had shared similar values as ourselves in the UK, and it was key that we found a technology partner that, you know, complied with GDPR and other sort of frameworks that are emerging from Europe. So now that we'd identified a key partner that could actually comply with some of those regulatory requirements, it was also then key for us to work with the technology teams to better understand their roadmap, their technology roadmap. And what was impressive about Logpoint and why we chose them is their desire to develop a world-leading capability and have a greater integration with the technologies. So Logpoint is one of the very few technologies that exists on the market that provides SIEM, SOAR, and UEBA, and they have a vested interest to continue to develop a world-leading product. So that's why we chose Logpoint. Why did we develop AISOC? Well, what we'd actually determined is that as we were growing as an organization delivering secure sovereign cloud services, speed of detection and remediation is absolutely paramount in cybersecurity. We wanted to find a way that we could accelerate and improve that capability. So we teamed up with a academic partner in our city called Birmingham City University, and they had a very strong data science faculty and AI faculty. Now this project commenced in 2021, so we're now 4 years into this project, and we've now created and developed a world-leading capability that you cannot find anywhere else. And our first partner to integrate and provide a capability was Logpoint. So our data science team worked closely with Logpoint's data science teams to find an integration capability that had capability to identify threats really quickly. Now, one of the challenges with having outsourced security operation centers or even in-house security operation centers is the speed of detection on alerts. Now, Logpoint, like many SIEMs, will create alerts. Now, clearly you can fine-tune those SIEM configurations so that you can then reduce some of the alerts that are being amplified, but still there are alerts. And increasingly, when you are a managed service provider delivering to maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 customers, then it's just a mathematical increase where if every customer produced just 10 alerts a day and you had 50 customers, that's 500 alerts that you have to look at every single day. So alert fatigue is a common phenomenon, both in managed service providers and particularly security operations center service providers. So what we developed was harnessing artificial intelligence to actually then, I guess, tackle that problem head on. And now what we've developed is a capability which Xavier will cover in the next presentation, a more deeper dive as to what we do and how we handle it. But ultimately what AISOC does is speeds up the whole process for detection and helps teams to remediate much more swiftly. To give you an example and a benchmark is that the mean time for detection and remediation across the globe is between 2 to 4 hours. Harnessing AISOC, the first detection and notification happens in under 20 seconds. Clearly, then when we show you what happens then and how that information is then broadcast to the teams, both in security operation centers, but also managed service providers, it gives you a quick summary of the problem and how to actually remediate the problem. So, we are seeing evidence now that malicious activity and P1 alerts can be detected and remediated in under several minutes, which is a significant enhancement on what's happening currently in the world. Next slide, please. So just to summarize what our choice of SIEM vendor was key to us becoming a UK sovereign cloud provider and not leaning into US technologies such as Splunk or QRadar or Microsoft Sentinel and so forth. So it was paramount that we had an opportunity to have a UK European centric capability. And then moving on from that, we developed AISOC, which we felt that there was a market opportunity to do so. Thanks, Ines.
Great. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for that insight. Very, very useful. We're now going to hand over to Xavier, who's going to go into a bit more detail from a technical perspective, and then we'll jump into a demo and actually see that that Logpoint and the AISOC integration in flight. So over to you, Xavier.
Thank you very much, Ian and Ines. So yeah, as you mentioned, I'll be talking a bit more at the technical details of AISOC and how it works. So next slide, please. So first, we'll talk about how AISOC consumes or ingests alerts from Logpoint. Then we're going to talk about how alerts can be managed with AISOC, with the help of AISOC. And then we'll look at some metrics of AISOC and Logpoint together. So first, let's just recap how AISOC ingest alerts. So first, of course, you have customers that would send their logs to the Logpoint SIEM. So the Logpoint SIEM would collect all those logs. The alert rules within Logpoint would generate incidents. And then every incident that's generated within Logpoint will get sent to AISOC. So currently we're doing that through HTTP notifications. So for any alert rule or for every alert rule that can be configured. So when AISOC receives those incidents, we then query the Logpoint API in order to get further information about the incidents, about the alerts, about the logs. So gathering all the information that's related to an incident in order to build a full picture and understanding of it. So we use a combination of statistical calculations, academic research. As Ian mentioned, we worked with Birmingham City University on this, on a project funded by Innovate UK. So we use a bunch of AI and machine learning algorithms in order to make a prediction on whether the incident that's generated by Logpoint is something that's suspicious or non-suspicious, or something unknown that we've never seen before. And following that, we send the prediction and the contextualization to the customer. And yeah, basically AISOC is trying to reduce alert fatigue. So instead of the customer or the SOC having to look at hundreds of incidents every day, it would be boiled down to just a few. Next slide, please, Ines. So yeah, let's look a bit more into what are the input and the output of AISOC. So we do use threat intelligence sources. So for example, when we see an IP that could be malicious, or when we see any IP, we just check whether this is something that could be that was flagged by the community by various sources. We also send that contextualization to either email or ticketing platform. So that's based on customer requirements and customer preference. So some customers might just prefer to have it as an email, old school email. But for customers that have a ticketing platform or a CRM, we can send the output of AISOC directly into that ticketing platform, so they can process it directly inside it. I think, well, I don't think I touched that much yet on the contextualization information. So basically, we are building a full picture of the incident. So let's say we have an incident that's related to a specific device or specific entity, user. We would send the queries back to Logpoint, to the SIEM, to get more information around that user, like similar incidents that happened in the past. So actually, that could be querying the AISOC database and information related to this specific user from Logpoint. So some logs that could be indicative of, for example, I don't know, like a password that expired, that could maybe explain why we observed some failed logging attempts, or a machine that shut down, and that's why we observed some specific incidents related to Windows service state change or stuff like that. And so, yeah, we built all that context and we added to the output of AISOC, which, as I mentioned, could be sent via email to a ticketing platform, and is also available through the AISOC user interface we call AISOC BI, which I will demo a bit later. And following that, the users can provide feedback on the prediction. So that's the feedback loop at the bottom here, the arrow. So in order for AISOC to improve and to keep up to date with the latest let's say incidents that are happening in your environment, we welcome feedback. Of course, that can help AISOC for the next predictions. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's everything for that slide. Next slide, please. So here, just mentioning briefly that we can send the output either via email or to a ticketing platform. So here's just an example of the output of AISOC within a ticketing system. And yeah, this can be configured based on customer requirements. On the next slide, I'll look a bit more into one specific output of AISOC. If you can move on to the next slide, please, Ines. Okay, so let's look at this one, for example. So this is typically an incident that was so generated by Logpoints and processed by AISOC. So adding the contextualization and the prediction, and then sent via email. So if we look a bit deeper into this incident or this output, it mentions just the name of the incident. So in that case, it's Sonic Wall malware activity detected. I then mentioned the device. So here actually, well, the entity, which in here is a device. The entity could be also a user, a host, or other attributes. Of course, it mentions the name of that device, of that entity value. Here it's WB HWFW. And then it mentions when it was created, from which log points, if you had different log points machines. Then the most important and highlighted field here is the suggested label. So it's basically the prediction that was made by AISOC. So in that case, it's red, and it's indicating that it is something suspicious with quite a high level of confidence. And then it mentions some contextualization information. So in that case, since there was an IP related to this incident, we queried a threat intelligence source, in that case, abuse IP. And it does mention that on abuse IP, this IP was flagged by the community. So it got the highest confidence of abuse possible, which is 100% or 100 out of 100. It then mentions some information about this IP address, so what it belongs to, and the type of the country as well. So for example, here it's Russia. Then next line it mentions that so here actually the user can just click on the abuse IP link and then have an idea of have further details about this specific IP. So we've got that hyperlink here that can come in handy, so that users don't have to manually copy and paste, for example, this IP address in a browser. And then we have information about other incidents that happened in the past 2 days. So actually here there were 4 other incidents related to Sonic Wall malware activity detected. We then have a MITRE categorization. So since Logpoint does have an integration with MITRE, we also pull that information from Logpoint, and we display it here in the outputs. We also have hyperlinks to the specific technique IDs. So if you just go to the next slide, Ines, or show actually the next one, sorry. Yeah, this one. So here it's just providing more detail for the user to understand exactly what's going on, and if there is any remediation that's required, that can be very, very helpful. Then just below that, we look at past incidents. So for every new incident that comes in from Logpoint, we look at past knowledge, of course. So knowledge that we've acquired from this specific Logpoint for this customer, and we try to understand whether we've seen that before or not. So we do a comparison on the different attributes and on the different values, and the previous predictions also that were made. So if you can just press next, Ines, and we would be able to show a bit better, to see a bit better. Oh, sorry, can you just go back to, yeah. Sorry, thank you. And then we have more information about the logs here related to the device, to the message, the source address, destination address, and the action completed by the firewall. And below that, we have, I think that's very similar to Logpoint, actually, the way logs can be displayed in Logpoint, like with just key value information of extra data that might not necessarily be the most relevant, but that could still be useful for security analysts or for users. And finally, at the bottom here, we have just a couple of links that would send the user back to the user interface of AISOC and the Logpoint URL. So I think in Logpoint that's called a search link. So it would send the user back to the logs, like from Logpoint for this specific incident. And you also can find here 2 buttons at the bottom. So those are related to feedback that can be provided by users. So the first one, so non-suspicious or suspicious. So as I mentioned, that's something really important for AISOC, since that would inform the next predictions. Next slide, please. Here is just another example. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but it's just an example of a prediction of an incident that was predicted as non-suspicious. We've also quite a high level of confidence here. This can be set up so if a user or if a customer wants to receive most or all of the incidents that are predicted as non-suspicious, we can tune that. But of course, that would usually be only in the first learning phase, in the first maybe few weeks or a month of using AISOC. But after a certain learning period or training period, we would encourage, of course, the user to decrease the amount of non-suspicious alerts that are sent to them as notifications, and then that would well, of course, decrease alert fatigue for them. However, we do encourage customers to have a certain amount of validation. So when an incident is predicted as non-suspicious, from time to time we would send it for verification, for validation to the users, to just make sure that everything is running smoothly. And yeah, here it also includes the MITRE categorization on there. If you go to the next slide, please, Ines, and the next one. Yeah, so okay, I'm gonna move on to demonstration now. I'm just gonna show the AISOC UI if I am able to do it. Yeah, I think that should come up. Share. Right, so you should be able to see my screen. Can you just confirm that you can see my screen? Yep, perfect, thank you. So here we're looking at the AISOC UI. So that's the dashboard, the home page for it. So here we can see, for example, just lots of visuals offering a high level view of what is going on with AISOC and actually with Logpoint. So in this example, we can see that on this funnel that there were about 9,000 incidents that were generated by the SIEM within that time period. And for those 9,000, AISOC performed some grouping. So there were about 800 cases that were created within AISOC. And out of those 800 cases, 13 notifications were sent to the users. So 13 incidents were escalated to the SOC or to the team handling security incidents. So this is, well, dummy data, but this is inspired by real data that we've observed on our customers. So yeah, we have different visuals. For example, this one here is just showing if you are an MSP or if you manage different customers, that could mention the different incidents by customer. We also have information about user feedback. So whether users agreed or disagreed with the prediction that was made by AISOC. We have here more detailed information about the cases that were created, the predictions that was done by AISOC. Yeah, and the different incidents that were created within Logpoint. Then we also have information about how much noise was reduced or cut down by AISOC. Information related to SLAs. Here an interesting visual at the bottom left, we call estimated AISOC savings. So that's basically related to how much we estimate AISOC saved compared to using a traditional SOC. So as we all know, SOC are very expensive to maintain and to operate, or paying a third party SOC is very expensive. So since we are performing all this filtering, we can estimate how much money we can save, AISOC can save. Yep. And also here, just as Jan mentioned, I think we process incidents fairly quickly, very quickly actually. So here, for example, we mentioned that the average, what we call notification time, is basically the time between when we received an incident from Logpoint and the time when we escalate that incident if it needs escalation. So in here, on average, it was 17 seconds. We also have here a graph just showing the different predictions that were made over time. So the non-suspicious ones, or the suspicious, and the accuracy. And here, finally, we have another table, another graph, bar plot, just showing the number of incidents created by Logpoint, the number of cases over time. And so also this can be tweaked. This can be modified by users. So users can move those around and just also add their specific visuals. And yeah, we're also working on adding more visuals to this page. Now, if I move on to the cases page, so that offers a bit more detailed overview of what's going on with the incidents and the cases that were created by AISOC. So it does include the prediction that was made by AISOC, the confidence score, and the contextualization that we've already seen in the email earlier. So for example, if a user wants to see more details about a specific case, they just have to click on one of the cases, and that would show the incident that's related to it. Well, in here, there is just one incident related to it, but if there is more than one, they would be displayed here. So that's the Logpoint incident. And then if they want to look at the logs, the detailed log information related to it, it's also available here. At the moment, we're doing a bit more work on trying to improve this user interface. But yeah, the idea is just to having an overview of the different incidents and cases and predictions that were generated, and being able to drill down on log level, up to log level. Okay, and I think that's everything for this. Do you want to share the presentation again, please, Ines? Just one more slide, I think.
Sure.
Been talking for almost 12 minutes, actually. Yes. Yeah, just next slide, and the next, please. So yeah, so just to wrap up to wrap up this presentation, we've analyzed about 20,000 incidents over the last 3 years or so that were processed by AISOC from different Logpoint SIEM customers, and we've realized that about 87% of those alerts or incidents were predicted as false alarms or non-suspicious, which highlights that there is a need, or there is a like it's actually very important to try to filter out this noise and to save time for security analysts and for users. So we've also had about 94% accuracy on the predictions that were made. So as we mentioned, we get user feedback. We also actually have a comment section for users to provide feedback. So we improve AISOC based on this. And the last point is that we estimate that, well, for an SME, or like a company that would generate about 10,000 incidents a year, using AISOC could save them over £66,000. So as opposed to using a traditional SOC provider. And yeah, I think that concludes the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Xavier. That was really, really informative. Hopefully what we demonstrated today, organizations are investing huge amounts of money year on year in both SIEM tools, different technologies within the security stack. But if they don't have the resources to be able to monitor these environments, due to budget or, actually having people that are monitoring those environments, you've got to question what sort of value they're getting out of that. So I think hopefully today you've seen that, Logpoint integrated with AISOC is an incredibly powerful tool and is really empowering organizations to really get that true value out of their security sort of posture and stack. Let's jump into a bit of a Q&A. We've got a couple of questions in the question parts. Let's have a look here. Okay, yeah, one about the predictions and whether or not you click sort of suspicious or non-malicious. What if it comes up as suspicious, but you click non-malicious? Will that mean that that will impact on sort of further decisions that AISOC might make in the future?
Yes, it does. So AISOC looks at past predictions. So we look at whether an incident is similar to a new incident is similar to past incidents, and so if there is something that's been flagged before as well, let's say malicious, and there is a new one that's very similar to that, yeah, the new one would be flagged as suspicious again, and same again for the non-suspicious ones. Yeah, true. That's valid.
Okay. Logpoint's compliant with GDPR and Schrems 2. What is Schrems 2 and why is it important?
Do you want me to answer that one, Innes?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so Schrems 2 was a European Court of Justice decision that came about in, I think it was 2020. So sort of 5 years in nearly. I think it was in July of 2020. And basically it was a case that was brought to the European Court of Justice around an issue that was related with Facebook. And basically the case was raised to address a major problem that had been identified, and that was Facebook was actually moving privacy data, private data across into the US, and was basically related to millions of European and UK and Ireland citizens, where their data was being harvested across to the US. Now, this obviously, from a European perspective, was deemed not desirable, and so a case was brought to the court, and it was actually then made into a new law which fitted into GDPR regulations. And so, if there's any companies now, and one of the things that is key, now I'm not a legal expert, but my understanding of the regulation is that it's now incumbent on the organization themselves to demonstrate that they've done what they can to prevent any data leakage across into other countries. And so in particular, if you are using a US technology or hyperscaler to hold private data, and this has actually been seen to then bleed into other jurisdictions, then you are ultimately going to be accountable, and you can then face some of the GDPR fines and so forth. And again, that's quite a significant fine, and there are increasing amount of cases that are now being evidenced where organizations who have failed to take the right steps to protect that data, and we're talking about data that is being generated by log data, which is still key and can be used for potential privacy compromise. So so for us, again, it highlights why we as MetCloud chose to work with a partner like Logpoint, which was a European vendor, and the fact that all logs are kept in MetCloud in our borders. So it actually is a really important regulation and law to consider, and it's one that I think most organizations in the UK and Europe, certainly in the UK, maybe not as European, and you guys may have some evidence of this, are not seeing this as a problem, and it will be a problem that will manifest itself in the coming years, particularly with new regulations that have been added to that compliance requirement. So if we look at financial services sector with DORA, with the Digital Operation Resilience Act, these kind of situations, if found guilty, will end up being quite significant fines and legal retribution. And then on top of that, in the critical national infrastructure sectors, we're seeing things now with NIST 2, with a revision to that regulation, adding cybersecurity and digital resilience capability needs. Again, it starts to then blur the lines of, well, where is that log data being held? And if you have a major data breach because of that, and you're found that you didn't take the necessary steps to protect that data within the country's borders, then you will be found to be complicit in that situation. And there are some significant ramifications which are yet to probably be seen, but over the coming years, these will be certainly happening.
Okay, so from a compliance perspective, then the onus is really on the organization, the end user that's actually deploying this technology to protect its environment. But if there is some sort of shift in the sovereignty of the data over a period, they're going to be liable for it.
100%. Like I say, I'm not a legal expert, and if I was operating now in some of these particular sectors, like financial services, like banking, like healthcare, and certainly within those sectors operating in critical national infrastructure, I would certainly be seeking legal advice as to where you're holding the log data. And we sort of know that the market is quite concentrated around US vendors. So Splunk being one is a major player in the market. Microsoft Sentinel is another. You know, you could list maybe a dozen so US vendors, and all of them often use either AWS as a cloud provider or Microsoft, or they have their own cloud services, which again are often leaning into AWS as their cloud of choice. If any of those are being seen to containing and backing up Logpoint data into those environments, and you have a major data breach, then you need to then satisfy yourself that you've done everything you can to ensure that that data breach does not contravene some of these GDPR and EU regulations. So, you know, I would really impress upon organizations that have a significant investment in cybersecurity and for particularly holding log data for compliance and regulation requirements, they need to make sure that they are being held, I think, in, if you're a UK company, it needs to be in the UK, and if you're a European organization, it needs to be in Europe. It's pretty simple from my perspective. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. Just one last question. I've got an on-prem Logpoint deployment. Can I still potentially utilize AISOC as a technology?
Yeah, most definitely. So what we are is a sovereign cloud service delivery model, and ultimately you're, from a very layman's terms, you're pointing your alerts to be sent to our cloud platform for being remediated and being dealt with. So yeah, certainly we are looking for partners who already have Logpoint or customers that have Logpoint. It's a big strategic play for us because we see from our own perspective and our own sovereignty play that we're looking for companies and organizations that have a similar kind of value and also strategic understanding as to how they can move their security capability that complies more with the UK and European sovereignty requirements and GDPR.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Hopefully it was very, very informative. Thank you to the panel, Ian Vickers, Paul Gower, and Xavier Schmoor, and myself, Ines Muir. If you've got any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask, or you want to have more detail around perhaps Logpoint and AISOC as a solution. We will share both Ian and myself's contact details, so you can get in touch to arrange a demo or, you know, sort of further conversation around this. Thank you very much.